In the last video, I transformed Minecraft mobs into Squid Game characters, and you all loved it. So today, I'm taking things to the next level by turning all those characters I created into terrifying versions. Right here in front of me are all the models I made. The doll, the player, and even the frontman. But the first character I'm going to make scary is this one, the worker. I've got his 3D model ready, and the first thing I need to do is delete all the parts since I'll be creating this character from scratch. My idea is to turn this character into a spider. To make the spider easier to build, I'll start by creating the torso of our character, dividing it into two parts. The first part is the torso, and I added another section tilted slightly. Next, I'll create his head, attaching it to the front of the torso, and add another cube on top to be his hood. With these cubes, you can already see the basic shape of our model. Since he's going to be a spider, I need to build his legs next. I'll start by creating a small cube like this, then add a slightly larger cube on top. Finally, I'll add another tilted cube to complete the spider leg look. Now I'll duplicate the leg design several times, and this is how the 3D model turned out. For the texture, I'll start by painting his entire outfit red. I'll add the zipper on his jacket and the belt on his pants. After that, I'll add shading effects, transitioning from lighter red to darker red to add depth to his jacket. I'll do the same with his hood. For the mask, I'll paint it all black and draw the symbol on it. On the legs, I'll add some red details to make it look like his outfit was ripped apart, as if the spider legs burst out of his body and tore the fabric. Finally, I'll paint the rest of the legs black and add more shading effects. Just to remind you, this is what the worker looked like before. And now, here's the spider version. Wow, this looks so cool! It's both visually striking and terrifying at the same time. Imagine if, in Squid Game, the workers were half human, half spider. That would be so scary. I think the spider version looks way better than the normal one because the original character is just a human. But if he were a spider, he'd be far more frightening. Imagine the players entering the series and seeing a bunch of spider workers, each with spider-like abilities, like shooting webs or climbing walls. That would be so awesome. Now, I want to see who's stronger, the regular worker or the spider worker. So I'll click on the spider, then on the normal worker, and let them fight. I'm rooting for the spider because it looks way cooler. Go, spider worker! Win this! Whoa! The worker is shooting arrows. And look, the other workers are helping him. Guys, the spider lost. You can see how united these workers are. When the spider attacked, all the other workers came to help. But either way, I need to build a scenario to trap the spider, and it has to be just as terrifying as the character itself. For starters, the tunnel where I made the previous scenarios looks like this. But the tunnel for these scary characters will look like this. For the first scenario, I'll dig a tunnel about this size. Then, I'll break the floor, walls, ceiling, and back wall. The new scenario will be similar to the old one, but with a creepy twist. I'll make the walls with concrete blocks, the ceiling with black blocks, and I'll add stairs like before. But to make it look abandoned, I'll replace some of the floor blocks with dirt and add patches of grass. On the ceiling, I'll replace some wall blocks with cobblestone. Instead of glass, I'll use iron bars to make it feel like a haunted prison. And the scenario is complete. I'd rate this scenario a 10 out of 10, and the character deserves a 9 out of 10. Now, let's move on to the next character I'm going to make scary, the doll. I'm here with her 3D model, and of course, I'm going to select all her body parts and delete them. I'll start by building her from the leg, duplicate it to the other side, and stack cubes on top to form her skirt and torso. Now, I'll create a cube like this for her shoulder, and from there, I'll make her arm. Create a cube like this for the hand. Then, make one finger and duplicate it several times. To make it easier to replicate on the other side, I'll select this arm and duplicate it. For her head, I'll divide it into two parts. The first is the top section. I'll create a cube below it and shape her mouth. I'll add multiple cubes like this to form her tongue. To really make it look like the doll, I started by painting her skin. Then, I painted her outfit orange and yellow. I painted her hair black. For the tongue and mouth, I used red. I'll use white to paint her teeth, and her eyes will be black and red. To finish, I added some shading details. The doll, which used to look like this, now looks like this. Just look at her. This doll turned out extremely creepy. Check out the size of her tongue. It's absolutely terrifying. The only way I could make this doll scary was by adding this giant tongue, and I think it really worked. When you look at the two side by side, they're the same size. But look, her eyes here are red, while the normal doll's eyes are black. The normal doll has a very small mouth, but this one looks like she's devoured something, and I really liked that detail. Now I want to see which one is stronger, the normal doll or the scary doll. So I'll click on this one, then on the other, and let's see a battle between the two. Who do you think will win? It looks like the normal doll is hitting this one. Guys, the normal doll won. Even though I made this creepy version of the doll, she's not as strong as the normal one. But either way, I'm really happy with how she turned out. Share your rating in the comments below because now I need to make the scenario where I'll trap her. My idea is to recreate the red light, green light game scene, but with a creepy twist. I'll start by digging out a room, removing the floor, ceiling, and walls. For the floor, I'll use sand and alternate it with dirt and soul sand. For the walls, I'll use blackstone, and to make it more detailed, I'll add moss to the walls. I created a transition between the two block types and added mossy stone. Instead of recreating the same tree, I'll make a brand new one, but this time it'll be made of thorns. I think this shape is perfect. Now, I'll I'll add some dripstone like this. To enhance it further, I'll add some clouds. I'll draw a red line and close the area with iron bars. And this is the final result of the habitat. I'd rate it a 7 out of 10, and since I really liked the doll, I'd give her a 9 out of 10. Share your rating in the comments below because now we're moving on to the next character, which will be the player. I'm going to transform the player into a headless monster. So I'll start by selecting all his body parts and deleting everything. I'll begin building him from the feet. I'll create a cube like this for half of his leg, then add another cube. I'll select everything and duplicate it to the other side. Now, I need to make his torso, so I'll start with a cube like this and place a larger one on top. For his arms, I'll create a cube like this. Angle it forward, then select everything and duplicate it. I made both arms like this because in the middle, I'll add his head. That's right, the character will be holding his own head. Instead of a head, I'll create some tentacles coming out of his neck. To do that, I'll need to create several cubes like this. Once they're ready, I'll duplicate them multiple times, and this is the final result of the 3D model. Now, I need to create the texture, which was pretty simple. The first thing I did was paint his outfit. I added some details on the sides and front, painted his hands, and then added shading. For the tentacles, I used red, transitioning from a darker shade to a lighter one. I added blood-like effects dripping on his outfit and painted his head the same color as his skin. However, I painted his eyes red and added some red details. Before, the player looked like this, and now he looks like this. This is absolutely terrifying. Look at those tentacles coming out of his neck, and it's like his head was ripped off. Out of all the characters I've created so far, from the spider to the doll with the giant tongue, this one is the scariest. The tentacles emerging from his neck make it look like he's become a completely different creature. I even think those tentacles are what tore his head off. The only problem is that now the player can't see anything. Maybe he just holds his head to scare others. In fact, it's likely that the tentacles are controlling his body, like a creature that's taken over him from the inside. What I want to see now is a battle between the normal player and this monster that can hardly be called a player anymore. I'll click on both and the battle begins. Who will win? I'm rooting for the monster and he won. Who would have thought he'd defeat a normal player in just 2 hits? That's why he deserves the most terrifying habitat of all. Since I'll need to make a dormitory, I'll first prepare the room to build it in. I'll start by breaking the walls, ceiling, and floor. I'll use wooden blocks for the floor and make half of the walls with deep slate to create a darker atmosphere. For the rest of the walls, I'll use black blocks, and I'll make the ceiling with concrete. To transition between the 2 wall materials, I'll add blocks in a stepped pattern. On the floor, I'll add podzol for texture. Since this is a dormitory, I'll place some black beds, and in front of them, I'll add trapdoors. I'll hang chains from the ceiling and decorate with cobwebs. Finally, I'll close it off with iron bars and place the terrifying character inside. The scary habitat is finally complete. I'd rate it an 8 out of 10, and the scary character deserves a 10 out of 10. Share your ratings in the comments below because we've now reached the second to last character, which will be the worker in the black outfit. Here's his 3D model, so you already know the drill. I'm going to delete everything. My idea is to turn him into a werewolf-like monster. I'll start by creating his foot, using a cube like this for part of his leg. I'll add another cube angled forward. Then, I'll select everything and duplicate it to the other side. To create his torso, I'll start with a cube for his stomach and then add another larger cube for his chest. For his arms, I'll use a similar approach to the legs. I'll create a cube like this, angle it forward, and then shape his hand. I'll make one finger and duplicate it a few times. To save time, I'll copy the entire arm to the other side. For his head, I'll build it like this, adding a cube below for his mouth. Trust me, this mob is going to be terrifying. With that, the 3D model is complete. Now I need to texture it to make the mob even scarier. The texturing process is simple. First, I'll paint his entire body black. I'll add some red details to his chest and spend a few minutes refining the texture. His head will be entirely black with a symbol painted on the mask, and I'll remove any areas without texture. For the inside of his mouth, I'll use red and add sharp teeth. To make it even scarier, I'll add more red details to his mouth. I'll do the same for his hands, painting them entirely red. And here's how he turned out in Minecraft. Guys, look at this! All the details, his hands look like they're covered in blood, and his mouth too, as if he devoured all the Squid Game players. This is absolutely incredible. I also really like his legs. They make his body look strange and monstrous, like a werewolf or something similar. Even though it's unsettling, it turned out great. Now I want to see a battle between him and the normal black-suited worker. I'll click on both mobs and they'll start fighting. Who will win? Let's see. The monster won again. That shows he's truly an evolution of the old character, but is he really that strong? I'll test it out myself. I've got a sword and I'm not wearing any armor. Let's see if I can defeat him. He can't hit me. And look, I took him down. Oh no. Wait, the other monster saw me and now he's chasing me. Get away! Get away! Take this! I'm down to 1.5 hearts. I have to finish him off. Take this! Got him! Even though I managed to kill the monster, he's still a pretty strong. That's why he deserves his own place to live for the rest of his life. To build his control room, I started by clearing out the space. I removed the floor, walls, and ceiling. For the walls, I used black stone bricks. The floor and ceiling are made with coal blocks. I also added some coal blocks to the walls to create a gradient effect, transitioning between the ceiling and wall wall blocks, I placed a few tables with computers on top and added chairs. On the walls, I installed several screens. I replaced some floor blocks with dirt and added patches of grass around the tables to give it an abandoned feel. What really makes it look abandoned is the addition of cobwebs. It's as if no one has been here in ages. Finally, I placed the monster inside and sealed it off with iron bars. The control room turned out fairly simple, so I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. The monster, however, is very scary, so I'd give him an 8 out of 10. Now, let's move on to the final character, which will be the scariest of all, the Frontman. I'm here with his 3D model, and as usual, I'll delete all his body parts. My idea is to create a monster without a lower body. So I'll start by creating this cube here, since he doesn't need legs. This will serve as his torso. Next, I'll add another cube below and stack several more to complete his chest structure. Since he has no legs, he'll need his arms to move around. I'll start by building his arms like this. For his hand, I'll create a cube and add fingers by making one and duplicating it several times. To save time, I'll select the entire arm and duplicate it for the other side. For his head, I'll create a cube and spend several minutes crafting his mask. This part was the most time-consuming, but here's the final result of the mob. Now it's time to texture him, and this process was straightforward. The first thing I did was paint his outfit in a dark blue shade. I painted his gloves black, and then spent quite a bit of time adding shading details to his clothing. For the mask, I painted the base red and alternated between lighter gray, darker gray, and black for the design elements. For the parts where his legs would be, I painted them red and added some shading effects. Finally, I added more details to his outfit, and here's how he turned out in Minecraft. This is the best model I've made. I'm really happy with how he turned out. Even though he's simple, I love how his arms support his body. Since he lost the lower half of his body, he moves using his hands. The mask is also one of my favorite features. It's both reminiscent of the original Frontman's mask and terrifying at the same time. To compare, here's the Frontman model I made in the last video, and here's the terrifying Frontman. Both models are amazing, but without a doubt, this one is my favorite. Let me know in the comments which one you like best, because now I want to find out who's the strongest. I'll use the wand to select the scary Frontman and the original Frontman, and the battle begins. Let's go, terrifying Frontman. Win this. Wow, he won. He's incredibly strong. What if I pit him against another Frontman? Let's see. Come on, terrifying Frontman. Win again. And he did. He's officially the strongest character of all. That's why he deserves a special room just for him. I'll start by digging out a room, and I think this size should be enough. I'll break the ceiling, floor, and walls. For the floor, I'll use wooden planks and mix them with soul sand. For the walls and ceiling, I'll use blackstone bricks. To make it unique, I'll add some gold blocks, which give the room a striking look. I'll repeat this pattern on the other walls and add cobwebs to make it feel abandoned. Since I'm recreating the room where the Frontman watches the games, I'll include a table, sofa, and even a picture frame. I'll break part of a wall to place the picture frame, set the sofa beside it, and place the table in the corner, along with a record player. To finish, I'll add a chandelier above and place the mob inside, sealing the room with iron bars. The room is finally ready. I'd rate it an 8 out of 10. As for the terrifying Frontman, of course, he gets a 10 out of 10. He's absolutely incredible. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out the video appearing on your screen now. I'm sure you'll love it.